Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Off the Beaten Path. Today we're traveling to Cincinnati, Ohio to visit Badge's Drum Shop. Charlie Andrews opened Badge's in 2018 to fill the gap he saw in his local Cincinnati community, and over the last 7 years, he's done just that, along with becoming a destination for drummers across the country. Walking through this store is the perfect balance of nostalgia and cutting edge when it comes to curating all sorts of drums, cymbals, and percussion accessories. Before we get too far into the video, I want to remind you that I'm creating new episodes in this series each month, so make sure to subscribe to my channel to stay up to date on all of my future video releases. And without any further delay, let's take a look inside of Badge's Drum Shop.
Come on in.
Hey Charlie, how you doing?
Good, how are you, man?
Good, thanks for having me out today.
Absolutely.
I'd love to hear a little bit about how you got started. I know this isn't your first location.
Sure.
But if you could run through the timeline of maybe one, how you got into drums, and then two, how that has progressed to getting into this retail side of things.
Absolutely. So I started playing around 8 or 9, and it was kind of one of those things. The school I was going to wanted all the students to pick a instrument for band, which was mandatory.
Yeah.
And I picked percussion, kind of assuming it would be drum set, which of course it wasn't, but I started taking drum lessons and fell in love with it. After college, I just kind of had this thing brewing in my head of Cincinnati needs a drum shop. And there had been some in the past, and I started to think, what would the perfect drum shop in Cincy look like? And things kind of fell in place for this to be able to happen kind of on a whim. I opened this in 2018, and it has kind of just turned from this very small thing that I didn't know if it would work and to this.
Did you have any experience in retail, whether it be music or outside of music, growing up with like a high school job or anything like that?
None.
It was probably really natural to kind of figure out like, oh, these are the kinds of sticks I would need to have available, or I need to have heads, or a mix of economical drums and some higher end things.
For sure. But even with that, when I opened, there were a lot of things. I was like, oh, I wish I did this, or I wish I didn't do this. And it was a learning curve. I'm not a salesperson by nature at all. I'm still not. It's not how I like to look at this. Most people who come here, it's because they've learned about it or they've kind of made a relationship with us. I mean, some of my best friends are because of this store. To me, that's incredible.
So this building you're in now, it's so curated and has a consistent feel. And I was telling someone else that like, when I look at your social media presence and all the pictures, I feel like you could put together a coffee table book because everything is just so cohesive, well done, and intriguing to look at. Could you talk a little about putting this space together? I know you said that you bought this building as your kind of second location, building up from the first one, and you really did a lot of work here to put it together and prepare it to what it is now.
Yeah, it was a drapery store before us, and it just happened the woman who owned this, who is a wonderful person, was like, hey, I'll sell. So it became our place, and we did kind of a total overhaul of everything in here. Has been altered from its prior state in some way, except for the ceiling. You know, tearing down walls, building walls, and we had to do it in a little over 3 months.
Well, it turned out amazing, and I think it brings up a great point too of like, in order to be successful in today's world, as a music store probably in general, but even in a more narrow scope of just a drum shop, you have to be able to reach people online and sell through the internet. But having a store that's an experience to come in is a big draw for people.
It absolutely is. I mean, we've had people who have made pilgrimages. And then, you know, there's the local scene of drummers here in Cincinnati who are just all wonderful people and have been so supportive of this shop. And it's kind of flooring when I step back and think of like all the people who have made this a priority to visit or support. It feels good.
Well, to get into some of all this beautiful gear here, One thing I like about your shop is it's kind of sectioned off and like partitioned. There's one side that kind of features the cymbals, and then you have kits throughout. And then like over here on this wall is kind of like where a lot of the snare drums are.
Yeah.
But it's also like kind of mixed and match, where it's like you just have to find a space for everything, and sometimes it's not going to be perfectly in a row.
For sure. Things are kind of equally sectioned off and then homogenized all together. Like I don't separate snare drums by new, used, or vintage. I want people to kind of feel like everything in here has equal importance. You know, I carry Ludwig, Gretsch, Sonar, DW, Noble and Cooley, Craviotto, Rogers, and I'm sure I'm missing something here.
And a lot of people like to have at least a few options of different snares for different musical settings. So this is probably something people who are already pretty settled with their equipment might find something they want to take on and add to their collection.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, 9 out of 10 drummers might have one kit. You know, it's not everyone who has multiple, but most drummers are going to maybe have a couple snares. Some people have a lot of snares, and extra snares sitting around can be an experience, you know, especially if you go and get something that has a cool story to it.
So as we kind of like make our way over, you've got one display of different sticks, tons of different varieties. I'm guessing a lot of these are kind of popular models, things that drummers in the community have requested to have available.
I like to have a bit of, oh, you can go and you can get your tried and true classic stick, or you can try something that's a little more avant-garde that you haven't played yet, and it might be your favorite.
Finding some of these smaller independent companies, whether it be drumstick brands, but also accessories. Like even up here above the sticks, you've got some Dragonfly and Lowboy beaters.
Yeah, that's another little area where drummers can kind of add some personality to their kit, or their playing is like, oh, well, I found this beater that sounds really good and I really like the way it feels, and it's not the generic round felt that comes on everything, you know. It adds color and personality. Yeah,
especially for people who play sensitive and nuanced styles. I know if you're gonna shove 2 pillows inside your bass drum, you might not notice the change from a beater as drastically, but it's something that maybe shouldn't be forgotten.
Absolutely.
Coming over past the sticks, you've got a whole nother shelf of snares. And here's, I see like way more vintage and used things and some cool pieces.
Yeah.
But many of these things can be like quite affordable to experiment around with.
You know, with like the new Gretsch stuff, I don't really just buy the generic of stuff. Like if I'm getting a wooden drum from Gretsch, I'm going to kind of make that drum an experience as much as I can. So like, this one has the lightning throw and the adjustable tone control. It's a USA shell with the 302 hoops. You know, like this one here, I actually swapped out the heads for Remo fiber skin because I wanted kind of a vintage vibe on that drum. Tons of the old stuff, like we have a cool Leedy New Era and a Gretsch Anniversary from the late 50s. And, you know, we do the kind of boutique small builder thing too. Like I have Craviotto, Noble and Cooley, and we just took on Sonique drums, which have just a stunning look to them.
Yeah, and a lot of it's like not one of ones that it couldn't be recreated or find another one, but there's not a back room where you're like, oh, I have 5 more. So let me go get you one in a box. It's like, well, that's the one that exists like that right now.
I don't have duplicates of anything ever, really. I know there's some places out there that will have a box of 10 Black Beauties, and that's not us. So the one you get here is the one that you see and try on the shelf, and that becomes your drum.
So as I keep exploring around here, it's kind of like you've got all these nooks and crannies and different pathways to get around, sorts of like odds and ends and orphan drums, which are a lot of fun, even more cymbals, and then a lot of accessories, percussion, snare wires, all sorts of things. And you were telling me before we started filming, used equipment is really a way to distinguish yourself from other shops, because every shop can sell this X model drum that comes in a package, but used is whatever's available at the time, and having the ability to consign equipment was a great way to bring in inventory without so much investment on the front end.
That's very true.
From starting a store.
Yeah, a lot of what we do in the vintage and used is that way. It's people bringing their stuff in and wanting us to sell it for them. And that's how we got started with vintage. Is someone called me and said, hey, I have this collection of drums I've curated and I'm moving and I need to sell them. And asked if we would take them on consignment. And that kind of overnight made this store pop up in the vintage world, and it's kind of snowballed since into this. But
Yeah, it's an important part of independent drum shops today, I think.
yeah,
And it's very trendy. People want vintage equipment. It's very in vogue. And some of them want high grade collector things and some of them want player grade things. And
right, yeah,
they're all one of one.
they are. It's, I think, more so than anything, the way to get a unique, this is completely you drum set. I mean, obviously you can custom order something, and I highly recommend that experience. It's a lot of fun to build your dream kit and order it and know that's coming, but also like that one vintage drum, it may be the only one that's exactly like that. You know, it's not like you can go and get another, 58 Ludwig in that exact condition and color with that exact wear, and it makes those a little more personable to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of them have cool stories associated with them. I know you don't have a journal for every drum set that comes in here of where it's been, and that's hard to track down, but maybe the history of when it was made, why it was made the way it was made.
Yeah.
So I always find those more interesting and inspiring to play and own.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so as we keep working back here, you've got a whole selection of heads. Unlike the drums where it's like we have one in stock, it's like that working drummers need 14-inch coated snare drum heads like nobody's business. And you have all the regular things, you have different brands, so if people are more familiar with one, you don't only offer a narrow scope here.
For sure.
And then as we make our way around the corner, this is kind of where the cymbal land starts and extends through almost the entire depth of the shop.
Yeah, we have cymbals all across this wall. I carry Zildjian, Agop, Meinl, Paiste, Sabian, Bosphorus, and then in the smaller artisan boutique, if you will, cymbals, I do Funk, Cymbal and Gong, Bern, Cymbal Craftsman, Siegfried, who is here in town, Quickig from Italy. Oh, and Borba, standing right next to the Borba display there. All of those are one of one. It's not like you are getting a K custom session crash and it's going to be kind of like the next one, or very repeatable sound. It's that exact cymbal is a unique piece that is now yours and yours only. That's what makes that so attractive to me. More than drums, I'm a cymbal guy. That has always been my thing. And so being able to find a piece that is capable of being your unique voice is, I don't know, it's very appealing to me.
Yeah, and it's, one of the few things on the drum set that you can't augment the sound. Once you get it, it will change and develop some changes in sound over time, but it's like, you can't get your cymbal hammer out and augment it and tune it up or tune it down.
Right.
So they're a very important piece of the kit to like connect with when you pick one out. And I think today's market is really exciting with cymbals because, like you said, you have all these timeless major players, and a lot of them have developed a great ability to make cymbals that are super consistent, so that if you have this specific model crash and you crack it, you can replace it and have 98% the same sound. But people really love finding these individual pieces, and I think a lot of consumers enjoy buying stuff that they know it was made by hand. A lot of these smaller cymbal companies are really good with showing their process, showing behind the scenes, connecting with buyers, and telling them about the process of making their cymbal. And so I imagine that's really fun for you, being in between both those parties.
Oh, certainly.
Of knowing these makers and the work they put into it and connecting them with drummers that are really excited about acquiring stuff like that.
It's like assisting someone to complete their quest. And I mean, I've had people come in and spend an entire day picking out a cymbal, and it's like, oh wow, they tried almost everything, and then they found the one that's like, this is what I've been hearing in my head. And yeah, and to your point, companies have made an outstanding ability for consistency these days. And I'm personally seeing a lot of people kind of venture into no, I want more unique, inconsistent, non-repeatable, so that it's mine and mine alone. I will say some of the big companies do that in a way that really works to their advantage. Like no two Istanbul Agop are the same. They might be very similar, but especially when you get into like stuff like the 30th anniversary stuff, those are all unique. And
Yes.
so you're really kind of buying one that it's yours, which I think is very cool.
And I bet being, in the shop owner position, it is really special when you had the thing that they were looking for.
Yeah.
It's got to feel very rewarding.
Absolutely.
So before closing out our video today, I just want to, thank you for the time you spent
Thank you.
and sharing everything that's gone into creating this shop. But two, I'd also love for you to make people aware where they can follow you and stay up to date on the different inventory coming in and learn more about coming to visit Badger's Drum Shop.
Absolutely. We are on all social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and our website is always being updated. You can get all of our info on the website. Our mailing list is on there if you want to sign up to get updates on events or really unique, cool stuff. We'll usually make a little newsletter about that. You know, if you're in town or out of town, it's a good place to hang, and there's usually a lot of fun people here.
Well, thanks again, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.